Chapter 7 7 p.m. UTC-6, 2 a.m. UTC +1. I sat, propped up by the adjustable end of a hospital bed. My head hurt. Mom and Dad sat nearby. I suddenly longed to tell them about what was going on with me, but I couldn't. Not when I don't know if I'll even make it through, I mumbled, feeling kind of discouraged at the moment. I hadn't mumbled quietly enough. Mom's quick ears picked up my words. "What do you mean, Kyle, not making it through what?" she asked, her expression showing worry. I didn't know how to respond, but thankfully I didn't have to. At that moment I heard two familiar voices in the hall. Tyler and Jordan appeared in the doorway. "Hey guys, come in," I called. For a few minutes they asked about the obvious, how I was feeling, what had happened, the ambulance ride. When their questions ended, I said, "What are you guys up to?" "The Canada-Denmark game started at 7, Jordan replied, meaning the World Junior Hockey Championship quarterfinal match being played in Toronto. "We're going back to my place to watch." He checked his phone. "It's still 0-0 in the first." Tyler looked at me with a curious expression and said, "But you know we have a job to do here, don't you?" I felt my forehead creasing. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Nothing they've said in the chronological future has alerted me to this." Tyler, always one to try to generate a reaction, grinned. "We came to pray for you, man. Not that we feel particularly spiritual, but this is one thing Christians get to do for each other, eh?" And with that, Tyler and Jordan briefly prayed for my recovery and peace of mind. And who's to say this praying isn't what's responsible for how fast I know I will recover, I thought. Before Tyler finished, he also prayed that I could remain focused on what God had for me in life and not worry. He was wiser than he knew. The elderly patient in the other bed spoke. "Hey, could you guys pray for me too?" Tyler and Jordan laughed self-consciously, but went over to the elderly man's bedside. They asked him a question or two, then prayed. Amazing how these kind of things can make a big difference for people. A voice over the public address system informed that visiting hours would end in 30 minutes. Tyler and Jordan went off to watch the hockey game. My parents also began getting ready to leave. "I'll take your car to your apartment," Dad told me. "We'll be back tomorrow." Mom gave me a hug. "Get some rest, Kyle. Don't worry about anything." She hadn't forgotten my cryptic words, and she was right. "Okay, Mom, I'm good. Get ready to bring me home tomorrow, because I know you will." They left. "Mind if I turn on the hockey game your friends talked about?" the man in the other bed asked. He clicked on the TV. With one eye on the game, I thought about what the American had said in the hotel hallway in Paris about Charlie Hebdo and other incidents that were clearly troubling the French capital. But I couldn't remember just what exactly he had mentioned. I needed to find out. Because, as Tyler had prayed, I needed to remain focused on what God had for me. And it seemed like God was allowing the day skip so I could be of some use in the Paris situations. So I needed to find out. But how? I was sleeping in the coming hour on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Could I wake myself up somehow to discover what else was going on and how I might be useful in those events? Canada scored 2 goals before the end of the first period. Denmark didn't score any. At 7:59, I said to myself, "Here we go again." My neighbor didn't hear me. Skillet pounded through the speakers in Tyler's car. Hero was the song. Good song. It reminded me that Jesus was the hero, but also that he works through us. After a while, Jordan turned the music off. "Hey, Kyle, you sleeping back there?" wondered Tyler, looking in the rearview mirror. "Nope, alive and kicking." "I guess we should feel honored you aren't falling asleep on us. Your mom told me you fell asleep pretty easily in the hospital yesterday." I smirked. "I think a head injury might explain it." Jordan puffed out his round cheeks in exasperation. "Boy, I wish I had a good excuse for sleeping too much. I never wake up in time for anything." "You know, Jordan," Tyler said, "there's an invention for that now. It's called an alarm." Tyler's words struck me like a lightning bolt. "Hey!" I exclaimed, seeing an answer to a chronologically future dilemma. "I can set an alarm to wake me up in Paris." Jordan and Tyler instantly broke into howling laughter at my seemingly ridiculous comment. They laughed loud and long enough that despite my embarrassment, I began to laugh as well. Tyler wiped tears from his eyes. "Wow, Kyle, if you hadn't been clunked on the head, I would really wonder about you. You feeling okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. Just a random thought, I guess." It feels so good to laugh. This day skipping has made everything too serious for me. As minor a point as it might have seemed, it felt like a profound victory. A simple alarm could wake me up at the right time so I could see how, or if, I could help. At 7:44 p.m. we passed a sign welcoming us to the province of Alberta. The time display on my phone slid backwards 1 hour to 6:44 p.m., but not because of a new type of day skip. Oh great, another time zone. After another 16 minutes, I slid approximately 300 kilometers east to a different car, my own, and a different day. My phone confirmed it was Sunday, January 4th. The car idled on the shoulder of the highway. I slipped it into gear to resume the drive to Regina. But I will make that one other stop, I concluded. And so at 7:37 p.m., I left the highway and drove a short ways into the community of Caronport. I parked by a large blue and tan-colored building. I braced for the wind chill and hurried inside. The building, called Hildebrandt Chapel, was part of the main complex of Briarcrest College and Seminary, my school, where I'd completed an undergraduate degree 3 years ago. It felt appropriate to stop and pray in the chapel before, chronologically, embarking on my momentous trip to France. My mind flooded with memories as I walked through the foyer. A few students milled about, but the building was mostly quiet since regular classes hadn't resumed after Christmas break. But I think I recall that a set of modular classes begin tomorrow. I entered the dim chapel, feeling small under the towering ceiling. I welcomed the hushed atmosphere as I quieted my soul. I was, after all, facing the big decision, and it was getting bigger all the time. Try to change things, find out how to be involved, serve God by serving others, risk. Fear and anxiety and expectation still clawed at me. Eventually I knew my praying had been sufficient for at least one more step of courage. I rose from my seat and climbed the sloped aisle of the chapel toward the exit. It was just before 8 p.m. When I stepped out of the chapel and into the foyer, I nearly collided with someone. "Whoops, I started, but stopped short. I looked again. I know her. "Hey, I remember you. Your name is Sarah, right?" The blonde looked at me quizzically. "Yeah? Did you used to be a student here?" she asked. I nodded. 3 years ago. "That was my first year. What's your name again?" With my mouth forming the answer, I day skipped. As I shifted from chapel foyer to airplane, I felt my heart suddenly thump faster in the wake of the interrupted encounter in the chapel foyer. Two thoughts competed for my attention. Can day skips cause heart attacks? And I hope I don't make a fool of myself when I get back to that moment. 2 seats over, Ingela had closed her book to rest. Good, this will give me some uninterrupted time to figure out my alarms. I chuckled at the memory of my absurd exclamation in Tyler's car 2 days/hours ago. I knew I would be sleeping in each of the next 3 day skips. I knew I should let myself have a decent night's rest in each of those days. My body still gets hungry and tired chronologically, it seems. I powered my phone, switched into airplane mode, and accessed the alarm feature. First, I set an alarm for Wednesday the 7th, 7 a.m. Paris time. That will get me up in plenty of time for the Charlie Hebdo event, whatever I end up doing there. I set the next alarm for Thursday the 8th, 5 a.m. Paris time. I don't have a reason for that other than I'll have had enough sleep at that point. I'll also try to see what else has happened which might help me make choices. I set a third alarm for Friday the 9th, again 5 a.m. Paris time. I will call Jeremy after I find out what I can about the previous day's events. I think I know what I want to ask him. It was an imperfect plan, but sometimes you've got to start in a direction and see what happens. Think on your feet, I thought to myself, remembering my dialogue with the Swedish counselor who breathed gently beside me. I felt much better for having made those decisions. Progress in the right direction. And then I yawned. I retrieved some earbuds from my carry-on bag, plugged them into the audio jack on the phone, and selected some music. I leaned back, knowing sleep would come soon.